Okay, we live? I do indeed believe we are live. Okay, if you're wondering where we are, we're actually using this as an opportunity to test out the brand new podcast studio. Is there echo? Hold on, I'm gonna fix this, but let's play the intro, okay, really quickly. See you guys soon. Okay, and we are live. What about now? Is it echoing now? Now I think we're good. I got to figure that out, though, because the echo is coming from the other mics, and it's like, well, how's that supposed to work? Because at some point I'm going to have other mics. But, okay, I think we're good just for tonight. We'll do it off of this. So since it is Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not doing a show tomorrow because it's Memorial Day. So, but there is a lot of talk about this weekend, a lot of drama to talk about that I didn't want to miss before we went straight into Tuesday. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, I figured I'd use this like special Sunday night emergency stream to test out. I mean, it's not done yet. We still got some work to do. I got a lot of work to do on this background, but did kind of want to show off. You know, people started doubting me the other night in chat. I've been saying all month, right? Donate, donate, donate. We need help with this podcast studio. And everyone is like, it's not real. It's not real. So I figured, you know, as an opportunity tonight, special Sunday night stream for the shareholders, we might as well show you, like, kind of to a degree, what we are working on here. Okay. And so this is, this is what we have going on. Okay. So before we get into the content to talk about tonight, because there is some serious stuff. Okay. Especially drama regarding the Trump DeSantis camp, the whole fight there. And, the fact that blackmail, doxing, and just life ruination tactics are being used by operatives, specifically in the media sphere. And, you know, as many problems as it may cause for me to talk about this and call this out, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And so we're going to do that. But before we talk about the very serious stuff tonight, I figured, why not? Why not? I got to show you what we've been working on here. So boom. Oh, I suppose not. Never mind. Yeah, sorry, hold on. It's so over. Guys, it's so over. I was going to try to show you guys the other side of this camera here, but as you can tell, there it is. There it is. Okay, so this is what we're working on really quickly before we get into the content. And I want to show you, this is what we're working on here in the studio. So, this is going to be my side. When we get this podcast going, this is going to be my side. I'm thinking of maybe putting like wood behind here, like the wood wallpaper. And then that's where, when we are ready, that's where the guests are going to go. Now, you might be noticing, Vince, why is there this stupid white square right here on the camera? Well, the problem is, okay, and this is why I've been asking you guys, okay, please help. We need your help donating super chats, all you can send to the podcast studio, is I was hoping here just to use the old cameras, right? I have these old cameras I've had for years because I've been doing content since I was pretty young, so I have older cameras. I figured we'll use our older cameras to use the studio. The problem with it, though, is they don't work. Like, they're outdated, right? The HDMI technology does not work, and so that's why I had to buy new cameras. So they are on the way. This resolution probably is not the best, but we are making progress, okay? And I figured, again, special Sunday night stream, we might as well do it from here. So with that said, let's talk about our topics tonight, but first, let me read a few super chats from you guys. Again, guys, anything you want to send, donate to the new podcast studio that we are working on and I'm testing out, okay? So this is the test run. So if things go horribly wrong on this stream, you know why, okay? This is our test run special Sunday night stream. By the way, be sure to leave a like right now on the show. But all right, let's read super chats and then we'll get right into the show tonight. Zachary for $5 says, good news, I've got a girl's number finally. Bad news, I got bleach on my new jeans and dress shirt while I was cleaning my bathroom. I'm an idiot. Well, Zachary, who cares? Because you got the girl's number finally. So congratulations. All right, let's go. Our boy Zachary, look at this. Look at this. He couldn't do it, and then he started watching the VinceDao content, and now he is doing it. Now he is doing okay. Props to Zachary, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Riley for $5 says, does this impeachment affect the presidential or Senate races in Texas in 2024? What is your prediction on the margins of each of these races as of now? I'll be honest, Riley, I'm not an electoral nerd, so I'm not going to give you the exact answer, but I will say, yes, I do think, and we're going to talk about it tonight, I do think this Ken Paxton impeachment situation is going to negatively impact Republicans in Texas, just because, like, there's a bunch of drama in the party right now, right? Like, there's just so much chaos right now in the Texas GOP. Brian Slayton, right, that was the drama a few weeks ago, and then now they're trying to get rid of Ken Paxton, one of the best attorney generals in the country, which we will talk about later in the night, which is another just disgrace on the part of the crappy Texas Republican Party. And I mean, I don't think Texas is in danger exactly in 2024, but it's not a good look, right? We're supposed to be a party here, especially in a state like Texas. Hey, look at us. We're doing conservative things. We're advancing the agenda. And all this, yes, chaos and just drama around the state GOP, it definitely is going to hurt the party electorally. And I think it would be silly to think that's not the case. But, okay. All right, let's see. How's the audio here? Are we good? I haven't heard anyone say that the audio is completely terrible. It's probably needs some work. But all right, with that said, let's get into our topics tonight on this emergency stream that we need to talk about. And again, guys, if you want to donate to the podcast studio, super chats are open. It's all greatly appreciated because we still got a little bit of work to do. I think, as you can tell in here, there's still some progress to be made, but I like where we are. I like where we are starting off here. Okay. Vince, don't want to alarm you, but there's a strange guy stalking you over your right shoulder. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we got a special guest in studio. He just pulled up. He just came over the other day, and I don't know what he's doing. He keeps saying he's like the 44th president of the United States or something. I have no idea. I don't know. It's very strange. Okay, I don't even know what he's doing here. Sir, could you please explain why you've just been sitting in my house the last few days? I think he's mute. Yeah, for some reason the guy just does not talk. Thompson Spence says the audio could be slightly louder. Well, I got you. I'll turn it up. How's this? Okay. All right, so yeah, that's our special guest. I don't know, my co-host or something. I don't even know what he's doing there. But all right, let's get right into the actual topics we need to talk about tonight, because this is quite important. But E. Marskino says, Vince, why you got to put on a phony persona? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, secretly, guys, I'm actually like a liberal, and none of this is real. Of course it is. I don't even know what that means. Okay, with that said, we got some very important drama here to talk about with you guys. Okay, so let me pull up my Twitter. Sorry, like I said, things are gonna be a little bit all over the place tonight because my first time doing this stuff from our little studio here. But let me scroll down here, and then we'll get into this. Okay. All right. The reason why we are doing an emergency stream tonight, the biggest fundamental reason is that there's rampant drama within the Trump DeSantis, specifically Twitter space and media space, that it just getting way out of control, and it just frankly needs to be talked about. Now, if I were to be totally honest with you guys, I was very skeptical as to whether or not I wanted to address this at all, because I will say the level of blackmail, doxing, and just purely like leftist life ruination tactics I am seeing, specifically, I mean, in this context, specifically from the DeSantis crowd towards the Trump crowd, although I'm not saying, the other side's exonerated. We'll talk about that in a second. But specifically, the level of blackmail and just like dirty, disgusting tactics I am seeing specifically over this weekend by DeSantis political operatives, or I shouldn't say political, DeSantis media operatives against Trump media operatives is completely despicable. It is completely inappropriate. And, I got to call that out. I need to call that out. And like I said, I was a little bit scared, frankly, because the way I'm seeing this being used, it's like, wow, Vince, by commenting on this, you are going to be burning political bridges for yourself. Who knows? These absolute psychopaths might try to do the same to you. But then at the same time, I thought a few things. I thought, number one, sure, it would suck. It definitely is going to burn bridges. But A, it's the right thing to do, which I think is most important. Okay, I'm going to stand up for what's right and what I believe is right. B, Gavin Wax, the former employee at the Babylon Bee who got absolutely screwed over this weekend, is a good friend of mine. I'm loyal to my friends. He's a guy who, actually he's a very real and genuine guy who's helped me out a lot and who's always been there for me. And so I'm going to do the same because, as rare as it is in politics, I do believe that loyalty to your friends, especially when your friends are getting screwed over and they would do the same to you, is something that is very important. And so I'm just gonna say it for whatever bridges it burns, and I'm sure at some point I would not be surprised at all if the absolute psychopaths on DeSantis Twitter try to do the same thing to me. But at the same time, let me just say this first and foremost: what actually are you going to do to me? To the DeSantis crowd who thinks that blackmailing and doxing and life ruination tactics, all this stuff is going to work. Well, see, the issue and probably the reason why I am someone who should be speaking out against it is I don't work for anyone, right? I'm self-employed. I do this on my own. I'm not with any network that you can fire me from. I know as much as probably a lot of you people would like to do that. There's no network you can fire me from. What are you going to do? Kick me out of school, right? I'll say it. I go to the University of Florida. It's a public school in Ron DeSantis' state. Try to get me kicked out of there. Whatever, like, effeminate life ruination tactics you people want to use. Yeah, I'm sure that'd be a very good look for your governor, right? Exactly. So I figure, yeah, while it may be damaging some opportunities in the future for me to talk about this stuff, A, I want to be on the right side of history, and B, realistically, there's not a lot they can do besides maybe ruin this future opportunity or that future opportunity. I don't care, because you know what, frankly, let's talk about the future of the movement, and let's say that there is not going to be a future in this movement for either side if these types of tactics on both sides of the Trump-DeSantis debate continue the way they are. And so with all that said, I'm going to get into kind of what I'm actually talking about here. I know some people might be confused. So long story short, let me say this, okay? So this is basically what happened. Before I say that, let me say that as for the Babylon Bee, as for Christina Pushaw, maybe just speaking my mind is going to cause problems with both of these groups. I personally have no beef, right? I have no drama, okay? I'm just going to lay out a general rule here in terms of the way I think rules of engagement should take place in the Trump-DeSantis debate going forward, okay? So I don't particularly want to cause problems with really anyone in the right-wing media sphere, although I just do have to recognize that inevitably by calling out the BS, it probably is going to happen, and I suppose that is what it is. But, long story short, what happened over this weekend, I think it was on Friday or Saturday, is that Gavin Wax, again, friend of mine, this is a Trump guy, right? He's a big Trump supporter who worked at the Babylon Bee, basically, long story short, got fired from his job for supporting Trump. I mean, basically, that is what it is about, okay? And, so essentially, he was getting into it on Twitter with Christina Pushaw, who is, I think, what DeSantis's press secretary, one of his biggest spokesmen or whatever, spokeswoman, I should say. And, I think basically what happened is Christina accused Gavin of being a criminal or something like that. And then Gavin Wax tweeted back, what's your effing problem? And then the Babylon Bee fired him for tweeting back, what's your effing problem? Now, do I necessarily, support that language? Is that necessarily, it's no, right? It's probably not the nicest thing to say, but at the same time, this is beef, right? This is drama. This is kind of what happens. The guy just got accused of being a criminal. Regardless, right? There seems to be really no specific, employee policy that he violated, right? You could say it's profanity, but I've seen plenty of Babylon Bee people tweet profanity all the time. And again, this is not even me trying to start a particular amount of beef with the Babylon Bee. I'm just pointing out, long story short, what you need to know from this situation is that what it really boils down to is this guy supports Donald Trump. This is a guy who works in a right-wing media company who supports Donald Trump and is very vocal about that. For basically being a very vocal and gung-ho supporter of Donald Trump, DeSantis people, basically went to, essentially what happened here is DeSantis people went to his employer, complained about it, and got him fired, right? And so he's been fired from his job over the weekend, and, this is what I'm kind of speaking out against. So this is what I'm pointing out here. Now, it's important to note, if you want to say this or that about this specific incident, this is far from the only incident of this I have heard, okay? I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say, but I've heard from multiple friends in DC who support Donald Trump that, yeah, there are DeSantis people trying to get hit pieces, trying to go to liberal media, okay, trying to go to liberal media to get hit pieces written on me to get me fired from this DC job or that DC job. And so, like, apparently this is the game we are playing here with the Trump DeSantis campaign debate, right? It can't just be a matter of, oh, well, we're going to debate each other. We'll have our disagreements. They may even get nasty. They may even get dirty. I understand that's how political debate works. No, what specifically, if I'm going to be honest, mainly people in the DeSantis camp are doing is escalating this to the point of, totally breaking the rules of engagement, right? It's not just a matter of we're going to disagree. It's I'm going to dox you in the case of Cat Turd, right? I've seen a few DeSantis media operatives try to dox Cat Turd. I'm going to try to blackmail you with hit pieces. And in the case of Gavin Wax, apparently the thing now is I'm going to try to get you fired from your job. I'm going to try to get you fired from your job for supporting Donald Trump instead of my preferred candidate, okay? And does it really need to be said that these types of tactics, especially against other conservatives, are completely unacceptable and completely unbefitting of a presidential campaign? First of all, I don't understand why it's necessary. You guys are the candidate, you Ron DeSantis people. You claim your candidate is all about, bringing decency and common sense or whatever back to, Republican politics without all the drama. And yet all I see from your, at least like Twitter and media political operatives, is you trying to use very dirty, low down, disgusting tactics, right, against people who just simply support the other candidate. Okay. And, let me tell you, that's not a good idea for a number of reasons. Okay. The first reason why it's not a good idea to, try to just blackmail and ruin the lives of the people who disagree with you on this candidate issue. The first reason that is not a good idea is because it's not the right thing to do. It's just like, first and foremost, it's not the moral thing to do. And does that need to be said? Right. And you guys are the same people who I hear so often say, Donald Trump doesn't reflect Christian morality, this or that. This Ron DeSantis is a good man. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but you're not exactly doing a good job being an ambassador for that if you're going to, be the people who are trying to dox and blackmail and get other people fired from their jobs for supporting Donald Trump instead of Ron DeSantis, okay? And for, all the talk about the left, this and that, that is no different than Antifa. That's no different from all what these idiot liberal journalists try to do all the time. Okay. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, more importantly, if you are really this much of a sociopath about it, I will tell you the fundamental reason why that is not a good idea. That is not a good idea because you know why? Once you open Pandora's box of things like doxing, blackmail, life ruination tactics, all that stuff, you know what it is? You know what it is? Hold on. Is it good? Okay, I think we're good. You know what the second more important problem with that is? Is it goes both ways. Do you understand that? Do you Twitter operatives understand that? Do you understand when you open the Pandora's box of blackmail tactics, that means, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not telling anyone in the Trump crowd to seek retribution, or I want it all to stop. Right, I want us to be able to have a sort of decent primary race here where this type of stuff doesn't happen, right? But what are you going to do? Let me ask you this question. What are you going to do if Ron DeSantis loses the primary, which, let's be totally real, he probably will, right? Most likely Donald Trump is going to win the primary. What's going to happen then? What is going to happen then is that all the people who will then have the institutional power because they back the winning candidate, they are going to remember all of the stuff that you did to them, right? They're going to remember all the blackmail and life ruination and doxing tactics that you used against them. And, I don't know if a lot of you DeSantis people would like to see that situation happen in the reverse. Just saying, okay? Just saying. And I don't want to see that to happen. Like I said, this is not a call for me to go say, hey, Trump people, go do the opposite, right? I'm trying to get everyone to stand down here. I'm trying to say this type of just retarded nonsense needs to stop, right? But if you continue down this road to the DeSantis people in the media who think all of these ridiculous tactics are okay, again, what is going to happen if you are not the ones who win this primary? And here's the thing. I think there are a lot of Trump people out there. I don't know. At least I'm just speaking for myself. I'm just speaking for myself here, honestly. That I don't particularly hold it super against you, and I certainly wouldn't in the grand scheme of things if you supported DeSantis in 2024 over Trump, right? We disagree. I'm going to debate you about it, but I'm not like long-term going to hold any degree of grudge. And I know there are Trump people who would, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of like normal, decent people out there who would be like, okay, we can look past that long-term. But you know what is something that is basically never, ever forgotten in this little sphere here? It's stuff like that. It's like the memory of, hey, you're the guy who tried to blackmail people, or you're the person who tried to dox everyone or run to the liberal media to write hit pieces. That type of stuff's not going to be forgotten, right? So if your guy, I mean, you better hope that your guy wins the primary, because if not, if that's your reputation, if you go down as remembered as the guy who, you know, was running all of those ops against people, are you A, going to be able to find a job in this movement after that? I'm not, I'm just saying. And then B, do you really expect that those same tactics are not going to be used against you? It's just not a healthy thing for the movement. There is no purpose of it. We don't need to be opening Pandora's box, okay? And that's what I'm going to say on this topic, okay? So let's see. Let me go here, kind of read you some of the things I went out and said about this, which I think I noticed were pretty positively received. Why? Because most actual Ron DeSantis supporters out there, which, I think there are a lot of good ones, they don't support these type of tactics either, right? But anyways, I said this. I said, Gavin Wax is a good man who does not deserve what is happening to him. It is shameful to see this movement engaging in the blackmail and life ruination tactics over the Trump-DeSantis disagreement. Like I said, we're opening Pandora's box. This needs to stop, okay? And then, yeah, this is what I said. How far is this going to go? Which is, again, another question here, right? How far is this, hey, we don't like each other in the right-wing media sector over the Trump-DeSantis thing? How far is it going to go? Are we going to basically be doing this thing where we keep a running blacklist on who supports Trump and DeSantis? Is that what we're going to do, right? So, hey, let's say I run the VinceDao show here. I will never have a guest on that supports Ron DeSantis, and then you're going to permanently be my enemy. And then the reverse, someone who supports Ron DeSantis. We're going to blacklist all Trump supporters from ever even working with me or each other. And again, on the campaigns, I understand that. If you're mutually in a campaign, I get that. But are we going to be seriously doing that in the, media sector, right? And then I said it's ridiculous, and I said I don't think some of you will like when this goes both ways, which you're not going to, right? Which you're not going to. And I said this is just sad. Keep the dirty tactics to the campaigns. We don't need to blow up and burn the entire right-wing media space to the ground because we disagree on this, which we don't, right? Like, I don't see how hard it is for some of you people just to act like normal human beings. Hey, we can debate it. Heck, we can get nasty about it on Twitter. We don't need to be running to liberal media to write hit pieces about this. We don't need to be doxing each other, et cetera, et cetera. And then I said this too. Yes, newsflash, we're going to need a movement after the primary. And what is the plan in the right-wing media space to have this, right? Because, if we're all going to just permanently hate each other here and the whole movement is divided, how are we going to survive after the primary? I don't care who the candidate is. If this is how it's remembered and everyone is just at odds with each other and we kind of permanently burn these bridges, again, what are we going to do after that, right? And so, and then I said this, yeah, basically all the same things I said. If Trump does win the primary, a lot of people in this movement are going to remember the characters who tried to blackmail and life ruin the other side. And I'm not sure they'll be so forgiving. Be careful about playing with fire, which again, that's not a threat. Okay, that's not me saying I really have the power to do anything. I'm just some independent guy who does YouTube. I'm just pointing out, I'm just observing, right, that like people are going to remember those of you who got so nasty about this, right? And honestly, the way I would see it and the rule I would propose for everyone in right-wing media is don't say or do anything that you would ultimately regret if your candidate lost, right? So, because, either are a possibility. So regardless of who wins the primary, don't say or do anything that long-term 2025 you would regret doing, right? And that's not that hard. You can support your candidate. You can get in the weeds about it, but there's no need for any of these tactics, right? And, before people say, well, Vince, you're a Trump supporter. Doesn't that happen in Trump world too? And you may point out the fact that, you'll remember a few weeks ago, there was this headline saying that the Trump campaign basically said to all DeSantis staffers, warning them, hey, if you work for the Ron DeSantis political campaign, you are not going to have a job in the Trump White House, right? Some DeSantis people who are saying, Vince, you're being one-sided about this, may bring that up. Now, I'll say about that is true. That I'm sure that's a real thing. I'm not saying I necessarily am on board with it, but I will say that it's a little different. And the reason I'll say it's a little different is because those are the campaigns themselves, right? I do kind of understand why the Trump campaign would say anyone who was a staffer for the DeSantis campaign, I don't want as a staffer in the Trump White House, right? I can understand that, and I could understand the DeSantis camp saying the same thing. I actually do kind of get that. What I don't get and what I don't support is that this is a little bit different because we are the media, right? We're not supposed to be direct operatives here in conservative news media. We're not supposed to be direct operatives for the GOP, for Trump, or for DeSantis, right? We can have opinions on those things. We can support, not support, whatever. But ultimately, right, fundamentally, we are the media, okay? Kind of part of existing the way we exist kind of necessitates that we, to a degree, remain independent of the candidates and of the party and kind of, have, in some ways, right, differences of opinions, this and that. Just point being, we're not those campaigns themselves. And that's why I said, quote, keep the dirty tactics to the campaigns themselves, because we are not the campaigns. There's no reason why non-campaign actors need to be doing this, right? If you're a right-wing news media or satire, whatever, just a right-wing media company, right, it is perfectly okay. It's not against your mission or your goals to employ people who potentially may support one candidate in the Republican primary over the other. So, the point being, that's just what I'm going to say about it. I think that all this drama, all this nonsense has to stop. It's effeminate. It's just dumb. It's leftist in nature, frankly, right? We can have the Trump DeSantis debate without trying to get each other fired from our jobs. Okay? And, selfishly to a degree, seeing what happened this weekend, let me just say it, seeing what happened this weekend makes me hope like 10 times more now that Trump wins the primary, because I'm very off-put. Okay, and you want to say, okay, you guys can't claim you're trying to like help DeSantis win. I will say, as a more neutral actor, I guess, in the whole situation, and as a lot of people would probably agree with me on this, you're not bringing a good look to Ron DeSantis here. Okay, you're actually making your candidate look worse. And, you're not making me optimistic about seeing a Ron DeSantis primary victory. In fact, now, because of the behavior I've seen, I look at it like, shoot, if Ron DeSantis won, then I'd have to figure out a million ways to cover my rear end and, have to be ready for all these people to try to like blacklist and blackmail me and all this stuff and permanently be like bullied for the course of 4 to 8 years by, people who have like more power, I guess, in my sector than me. And that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. We shouldn't have to be like that. We shouldn't have to operate in that sense of existence. So, anyways, there's the Trump DeSantis sort of blackmail drama. Let me read these super chats here. Zachary for $5, thank you very much, says liberals are probably laughing because they are no longer canceling us, because apparently we're going to cancel ourselves. Thank you for the $5, Zachary. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Alex says facts. Let them argue, then go vote. Stop the infighting. Exactly. I don't know how hard that is to say, okay? Because, and especially you consider what we're really fighting over. 90% of the sphere, I should say, we agree on like 90% of things, okay? Really, oftentimes what the Trump-DeSantis debate comes down to is not a matter of ideology. Sometimes it's ideology, but I notice especially nowadays, it's a little different from 2016, where it's not a super ideological thing. It's more so practically how we think each side should like approach things, right? It's more of a strategic thing. I see more of a strategic benefit of Trump or of DeSantis. And something like that, we're going to permanently burn friendships over, and we're going to try to like ruin people's lives and get each other fired over. It's just silly. And again, be careful about that stuff. Seriously, be careful about that. Because you know what happens when you dox someone? You know what else they can do? You know what they can do back? Exactly, right? Not endorsing any of that. I don't think any of it should be happening. I'm just saying when you open Pandora's box, you might not like the result. Zeb Boykin for $5 says, There's a difference in someone supporting Ron and the stands. The stands are disingenuous and want to be gatekeepers. Thank you for the $5, Zeb. And it is true. Yeah, some of the ambassadors for this stuff on Twitter are just frankly not the best. Frankly, not the best. Okay, guys, again, you want to super chat tonight to help us raise money for this podcast studio here. I'm still getting used to it. Okay, I'm still getting used to it technically. In terms of the tech here. Okay, it's a little bit. We got some work to do. We got some work to do in this studio, but I figured we might as well start getting used to using it a little bit, right? Because once we are sort of finished here, I'm probably gonna keep doing my normal show in my normal room, but I want to get some panels on and stuff, and maybe bring some liberals on, and maybe do like a Friday or Saturday night show from here where we bring in our guests like this. Boom! Look at our guests. Okay. We actually have a guest panel tonight. This is Who Asked right here. Everyone's like, who asked? Nobody asked. Well, this is Who Asked. That's every actual Joe Biden supporter, and that's Monty Teo's ex-girlfriend. Okay, so that's our guest panel. So if you guys could introduce yourselves, and thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it, for real. Okay, well, with that said, let me see. I got any more super chats? I think we're back here. Why do you have an Obama cutout? He's my special guest. Okay, he's my special guest. The real story on why we have an Obama cutout, it's actually my roommates. They were having this party, and they used it as a gag thing. And he's just been in the living room for 2 years. And do you guys want us to bring him on the show? Do you guys want us to interview? Okay. All right. This is our special guest, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to the show the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. Barack, any words for the show? Yeah, I don't know. He's a little quiet. I think he's scared. I think, his robot reptilian brain doesn't work when it's around me, right? Because he's not been programmed yet today. They got to open like Hannah Montana in that Family Guy episode. They got to open the back, Android. Hi, I'm Barack Obama. And it's not on. It's not on. He's malfunctioned. I think he's just totally mute. Barack, what do you think about the Trump DeSantis camps using blackmail against each other? What do you think about that? I'm telling you, I think he's broken. But here, we'll. There you go. Okay. Breaking news: Barack Obama. Oh, you can't even see it. Okay. While Barack Obama needs to have his batteries for his Android reptilian Terminator brain turned on, we're gonna mess with him. Okay. Look at that. Look at that. Barack Obama now supports Trump. He can't even see. Can't even see. His eyes have been blinded by support for the better president who came after him. Okay, there we go. All right. All right. Well, let's see. With that said, there's the Trump DeSantis story. Should we talk first about Ken Paxton or this GOP? We'll talk about the debt ceiling. We'll talk about the debt ceiling because it is more recent. Okay. So as you've heard, the last few weeks or so, the House GOP and Biden have been in these, back and forth negotiations over the issue of, are we going to default on our debt? We got to figure out something with the debt ceiling. Well, check it out. So long story short, Kevin McCarthy is absolutely caved on the issue of the national debt, right? And so here, Rand Paul basically sums it up for you. Fake conservatives agree to fake spending cuts. Deal will increase mandatory spending by around 5%, increase mandatory military spending by around 3%, and maintain current non-military discretional spending at post-COVID levels. No real cuts to see here. Conservatives have been sold out once again. And yeah, I think this is just completely shameful to see because, for once, the Republican Party has talked for so many years about the debt. We're fiscal conservatives. We're giving away our future by spending so much money. 100% agree, right? this right here, especially considering how much we need it, how much we could use it, how much we understand, right? We know national debt, all this spending is just screwing us over, screwing over the future of our country, right? And we're on the verge right now of defaulting, which means Republicans in this case had all of the negotiating power. They had all of it, right? Because there's no way Biden was going to accept on a default, because that would make him look really bad and basically destroy his presidency, which means Republicans could have demanded whatever they want. Kevin McCarthy was in the position to demand whatever they want. And long story short here, I mean, we did get a little bit of concessions, but it basically doesn't really do anything, right? It increases the mandatory spending. It increases military spending. Okay, fine. I understand Republicans. Oh, we always got to spend more on the military. Fine. But the biggest thing I see here, maintain non-military discretionary spending at post-COVID levels. That is not what we need, right? Like right now of all times, we need a drastic cut down on federal spending. And, you know, I thought that's what the Republican Party was all about, because that is the excuse they have used for so long when it comes to real conservatives, and especially the social conservatives coming along and, you know, trying to demand better from the Republican Party, right? They have said, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then the Republican Party has said for so many years, okay, yeah, but Washington is spending so much. Yeah, we're like the fiscally conservative party. What is actually fiscally conservative about this, right? So here, we got some more details for you here. This deal adds $4 trillion to the debt, hands away all leverage to the Biden administration for the rest of his term in exchange for freezing and then growing the current woke and weaponized regime with only 2 years of cap designed to fail. Conservatives should fight it with all their might. Which is completely true. Okay. So there you have the basic deals on this. Long story short, I don't know what the point is of the Republican Party, okay? Just absolute shame on Kevin McCarthy for this. Because this actually, you know, a lot of times when Republicans talk about fiscal conservatism and the debt and all that, I sort of just roll my eyes because I know they're just never serious about it. But in this case especially, like, arguably, we may never get a chance like this again to really fix the problem of federal spending. We really may not, right? We had all of the leveraging power because there's no way Biden was going to accept a default on the debt, right? He could not let that happen. He could not let that happen. So we could have literally basically demanded whatever we wanted. And instead of actually doing a whole lot there, what do? Hey, let's basically like minimally cut the cap for like 2 years and not really do it. It's just a shame. It's just a disgrace. On likewise news of Republicans just being completely disgraceful, and again, I'm very tired of this party, very disgruntled with it all, to be totally honest with you, okay? Now, obviously, I'm not one to go out and sit out an election. I'm not going to say, oh, 2024, I'm not going to vote because I'm so disgruntled with all of it. But I will say, you know, the amount of... First of all, political failure in standing up to Democrats, combined with all of the infighting, which I'm about to talk about in a second, I do have to imagine, okay, to be totally honest with you, I don't know about our chances for 2024, because if you're the average person who is maybe not the most political, but keeps up with it and is like minimally involved in politics and whatever, like what image are you getting from the GOP right now, right? For someone who maybe they vote usually, but they don't vote every single election, what in 2024 at this current rate is gonna communicate to them, hey, let's be enthusiastic about voting Republican, because we know how important energy is, especially to the post-COVID electoral system with turnout and all that stuff. And here's what we're getting, right? We're getting infighting in the GOP beyond the points that are healthy, because there is healthy infighting, but beyond that which is healthy, we're getting, you know, Kevin McCarthy inept, right? He basically does nothing to stand up something that's actually important for once. He totally caves on the debt issue. And then here we got to talk about this. So over in Texas, okay, over the weekend, the Texas State House voted by a margin of, I think it was like 161 to 23 or something, by an overwhelming margin, actually, as a matter of fact, to impeach the Attorney General there, Ken Paxton. Okay. Now, what they are alleging is some type of, I guess, like misconduct, like he's corrupt is what it is, or so he mishandled money, or just some nonsense, right? Total witch hunt nonsense. We understand this. But when you break it down, here's the deal, and here's what this is really about, right? Ken Paxton is one of the best attorney generals here in this country, okay? And many of you probably are familiar with him. He stands up for A, election integrity, which obviously matters. B, he's a big warrior when it comes to the issue of immigration, right? You hear about Texas, you hear about these lawsuits they're bringing against Biden and all this stuff, right? The primary driver of all of that stuff is Ken Paxton, okay? So he's making a big deal out of this border issue. He's also being a guy, you heard about all these like drag shows and stuff going on. He is trying very hard to fight against the LGBT stuff over in Texas, and he's incredibly based on the issue. So long story short, here we have a conservative AG in the state of Texas who is fantastic on the issues, okay? Probably one of, if not the most conservative state attorney general in the country. And what's essentially happening here, right, is the very corrupt, drunk Texas Speaker of the House. Okay, he's the same guy who you might have seen a few weeks ago. He went out there and he was basically like John Fetterman. I don't know if he was drunk, having a stroke, whatever it was, but he was, reading on the House floor and he just could not speak. Yeah, that same guy, right? That same guy, the guy who just inebriated or whatever it is on the House floor. Well, 1 week after Ken Paxton pointed that out and told him he was drunk and told him to resign, he now is bringing this impeachment against Ken Paxton. So long story short, it's like Ken Paxton insulted the guy's ego, made fun of him, and now what is the House Speaker doing in response? Instead of just ignoring it, instead of saying, okay, fine, I'll be the bigger man because I'm the principled conservative, supposedly, right? No, they're like, oh, you said something mean about me? Well, I'm going to go and impeach you. This is Republicans against other Republicans, right? And really what this is about is they're going to replace Ken Paxton if they do succeed. It goes to the Senate vote. I don't even know where it's going to be. But they plan to replace Ken Paxton with George P. Bush, okay? That's probably who would end up taking this spot, is George P. Bush. It's pretty transparent there what's going on, right? You're just going to sell out the state of Texas to the Bush family once again. When again, like, we cannot afford to be doing this nonsense. Texas is being overrun right now by illegals and by this drag show issue. Again, Ken Paxton's one of the best warriors in the country on it, and this is what's going on. So it's absolutely disgraceful. It's shameful. And like I tweeted out here, Drunk Dade should seriously get his life together before he goes impeaching one of America's best attorney generals. Because again, the House Speaker leading this push about misconduct or whatever, no. He's the same guy who showed up to the House floor completely inebriated. Okay, so there you have it. There's kind of our stories for the night. It is Memorial Day. It's a special weekend stream, so I guess I'll just we'll do Q&A for the rest of the night. Okay, but like I said, we're not doing a show tomorrow, so I did kind of want to briefly, just as an excuse to test out some of the tech here, I did want to talk about some of the news there. So let's just do Q&A for the rest of the night. You got super chats, again, questions or comments that you want from me. Let's just do it. Weekend stream, Sunday night, casual. It'll be fun. It'll be relaxed. Why not? But let's see. Let's get caught up here on these super chats. D-Run for $2 says, careful, Vince. We'll think you're a puppet too. Oh, because I got Obunga in the comment section. No. Listen. He actually showed up here because he was going to shut us down, okay? He was the agent that the Matrix sent to shut us down. But the problem is right before he ran out of battery, okay? Obunga ran out of battery. And so now there he is just he froze. He was coming for me. He's like, VinceDao, you got to stop this, man. And then, nope. And then now there he is, just frozen in place, okay? Out of battery. The Terminator has run out of battery. He's just sitting there. Should we put him on the guest camera, though? Would that work? Hold on. Let me try to get it back running here. See, this is the problem. I need new cameras. So, again, you want to help us finance the cost of the new cameras. Super chats are appreciated. If it'll even turn on here. All right, never mind. It's probably not going to work. It's useless. Useless technology. All right. When we have the new cameras, this will probably look and feel a lot better. Because it's probably, the resolution here probably isn't the best, I'd have to imagine either. But it's because my cameras here are so old. Like apparently HDMI capture card technology was not even invented yet. Because like there's no option for it, which is why there's no clean output, which is quite annoying, but it is what it is. New cameras on the way. So by the end of this next week, this whole thing here should be ready to go. Christopher for $5, thank you very much, says, what is the point of the Republican Party? Seriously, I can't think of any time they fought for their voters. Well, let's play that game, chat. When is the last time that you think the Republican Party genuinely stood up for their voters? I agree. Forget their voters, just the country in general, right? Because this debt issue, okay, like we all know, I don't think it needs to be explained. As much as they've spread these empty platitudes for years, yes, there is something to be said that we need to rein in our spending as a country, or else, you know, the economy is just not going to exist, okay? Like everything's going to blow up in our face, right? It's not even the solution to just keep raising the debt ceiling, right? We need to actually bring down spending, and Republicans more or less didn't even do that. So, yeah, it is shameful to see. It's quite shameful to see. Vince red-pilled Obama. Yeah, that's why he's frozen in place. Exactly. That's why he's literally frozen in place. Here, let's try to bring him in here, all right? Should we give him a microphone? Okay. Maybe he is speaking. Maybe he's speaking in his reptilian robot language and we just can't understand. Let's see. Barack, can you sit down, please? All right. Okay, well, you look better with this hat. Here you go. See, Barack, you can be my co-host. Now you can talk on the thing, too. We'd like to see your face, though. Yes. Yes. All right. See? I told you. I told you we could get guests in the studio, and here we go. Our first guest, former president. How many podcasts do you know where their very first guest was a former president of the United States? It's very rare. So here we are, okay? So if you guys got questions for me or Barack Obama, in fact, I'll ask the first question. Barack, you know, first of all, why are you made of cardboard, Barack? You know, I knew you were like a reptilian, like, I don't know, lizard person or something. Like, I've always known that. We've known you're a lizard person. And, you know, you're like a shape-shifting alien that, you know, like, we know that. But I would think that the reptilian race could do a better job than this. Like, the lizard people can't do a better job than this, you know? Like, I thought, I mean, I don't know. I've seen the movie Terminator. I thought you guys would have, like, actual skin and you're, like, cyborgs underneath. Or really, you're like the T-1000. Like, you're liquid reptilian, but you just morph into people, right? But this is very lazy work on the part of, like, the globalists. Like, you're just actually a cardboard cutout. I don't understand this. I mean, they must have been using some creative effects for so many years to, you know, get you to, like, walk and talk. But Barack, what is the deal with that? Why are you literally just made out of cardboard? And how did you get away with this for so many years? If you don't mind telling the podcast. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, no, that isn't, you know, that does make sense, Barack. Yeah. Go on. Wow, you know, that's interesting. I never knew that. Did you guys know that, chat? I never knew that. Never knew that. Otto for $20, thank you very much. Doesn't even send in a message, but thank you for the $20, Otto. I appreciate it very much. God bless you. And Daniel McQuaid for $6.99 Canadian says, have you ever read the book Mere Christianity? And if so, what did you think about it? Thanks for the $6.99, Daniel. I have it, but I've never read it. I'm gonna be honest. I've never read it. Because I just have not read books in a long time, if I were to be totally real with you. But I would like to read it at some point, but if I were to tell you the truth, I really do not have time to read books anymore. And I have an entire collection of books that are just sitting there, okay? I usually try to get, you know, theology and faith. I either A, just read the Bible itself, or B, will like watch YouTube stuff on it when I have time. But if I were to be totally real, like my life right now, I just don't have the time to sit down and read books. Like, just honestly. So I have the book. It's just been sitting there. But thank you for the $6.99 Canadian. I appreciate it. Scuff Ryan Gosling says, where is Big Mike? Well, I could ask our guest here that question. Okay, Barack. My second question for you. Again, thank you for coming on the show. You know, I know we used to support different political parties. But, you know, I'd like to know, A, why you married a transgender, and B, how exactly you gave birth, or she, he, whatever, like, so, because I know you have how many children, like 2 children, 3 children, I don't know. So I'd like to know the story there of how you pulled that off, because I think it's frankly quite miraculous. I mean, she is a man, you, I believe, are a man, or is that what it was, right? You guys did a swap? I don't understand. So Barack, if you could please tell us a story of how you and another man managed to give birth to like 3 children. I'd like you to tell that story. Yeah, sure. If you'd like to tell that story to the podcast. Really? Uh-huh. Yeah, no, okay, no, that makes sense. Right, so, oh yeah, because you guys are like reptilian lizard people, so it doesn't matter, right? You can just make it happen either way, right? Oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Yeah, because you're like androgynous reptilians. So it's just you present as a man and he presents as a man, but yeah, okay. So that's the answer, Chad. I guess like reptilian biology, it works different. Okay, it works differently. Sheeny Beanie for $2 says, ask him why he spied on the Trump campaign in 2016. He claims he didn't. Barack, you don't need to lie to us. Come on. Don't talk to me like you're made of cardboard or something. Okay? Because you know why? That is very thin. Those are very thinly veiled lies, okay? Don't do that, Pinocchio. Listen. You see this? You see this big nose right here, Barack? It's going to grow bigger if you keep telling lies, because that's how Pinocchio works. Come on, man. I think he's scared. I don't think he wants to answer the question. Chad, I don't think he wants to answer the question. Ouch, we're hitting low. I'm just asking him the questions. I mean, it's Barack. It's a genuine question. I don't think he wants to answer. You're breaking his face. No, his face is fine. He's a tough guy. He's made of solid steel cardboard. What do you mean? Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions here for Barack Obama? He does math. Books are dead. The day the internet dies, I'll read a physical book again. You know, that is actually true, Zach. Okay, and this might be a hot take, and I know our book heads will get upset, and it's like, if you read books, I think that's fine. I think that's arguably, like, refined in many ways, and elegant, whatever. You know the words. I guess elegant is kind of a feminine word. How about, I don't know, sophisticated, I guess? But, you know, the thing is that I have noticed very often that the exchange I get in terms of reading a book and actually like the knowledge and amount that I can apply to just in terms of how much I learn or real world application or even just application of certain ideas, I feel like the value exchange is not there. And yes, I'm not counter signaling the very idea of reading books, but I find that especially in my life where I have I have a lot of things to do, right? I do the show, I do the channel. I'm also a full-time student. I'm trying to start doing some business stuff, right? It's like, I just don't have that type of time, you know? And so I find very often that the value exchange in the 21st century that you get from reading books as compared to just watching, I don't know, a YouTube video on the exact same subject is just not there, right? It takes how many hours to read a book, and then sure, if you're getting really solid knowledge out of all of it, good. But oftentimes I find that, you know, old school people back then, they just wrote a bunch of words, and you know, it is what it is. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. You might say it's a bad thing, Vince, but that's a symptom of the modern world. Everything moves so fast, and it's like we should have the time to read books, and I agree. But it's also, for me, I just find very often that if you really want to be efficient about it, you use the tools that allow you to most efficiently take you to where you want to be. And you know, you can say, right, that that's bad or whatever. But at the same time, if you're up against the rest of the world, right? You're sort of in competition with the rest of your industry, the rest of your sector, right? Speed, like the modern world, speed does matter, efficiency does matter. And so, you know, that's why I really don't, I'm probably a lot less well-read, quote unquote, than a lot of people in our sector. At the same time, I would argue, not even in an arrogant way, but I really, like, there are some people who it's like they've read all the books and they're a lot smarter on certain topics than me. But I personally feel that overall, it's like the difference is fairly minute. And then on the flip side, you know, it's like who's putting out more content, who's doing more, if that makes sense, right? And so that's kind of my thing on books, if you want me to be totally honest. That's my thing on books these days. Daniel McQuaid said, everyone read Dan Crenshaw's book. He secretly supports Vince. Oh, does he? Does he? Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Most well-known orators read books. Just saying, but I can understand the time argument. Well, this is true, but also I would argue you learn more about oration from hearing other people orate than you do from reading books, right? And that's the main content I consume. Is I will, so-and-so wants to read a book on this topic, I'll like listen to someone talk about it, and sometimes I'll listen to someone of expertise lecture about a topic, right? But that's my other thing too, is I'm like an auditory learner. Like I honestly have a hard time reading words for a long time. I listen, right? That's my big thing. Which maybe that's why I do the speaking thing on camera and stuff, because I'm like an auditory guy, right? But I often find it's like I can listen to something for an hour and it tells me all I need to know about a certain topic, or read a book on that takes how much longer, and it's just how much more like wordy and less efficient. But yeah, on the oration front, yeah, it is true they've read a lot of books. They just know a lot of stuff, right? But I would also argue you learn most about oration from listening to other people speak, not reading the words of other people, in my opinion. In my opinion. If you truly want to understand the world around you, you'll need 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 51. They're also very good stories. Yeah, to a degree. Although I do think, especially the Orwellian references are sometimes misunderstood, but, you know. And then listen to books. Yeah, but your average audiobook is how long? Like 10 hours? Like 5 to 10 hours. I don't have 5 to 10 hours, right? Deliver me information in 10 to 20 minutes. You know? Oh, Vince, you're such a zoomer. But that's my thing, though. Here's my thing, though, right? Is I fully recognize that part of the reason I can't like sit still and read something for that long is because I'm Gen Z and because we've been raised in the internet world and all that stuff. But I really, like, a few years ago made a cost calculation because I wanted to start getting into reading stuff more and whatever. And I just realized, like, this takes so much time, right? And so my whole thing on it is that, yes, it's probably a bad thing that my attention span as a person who grew up in this generation is probably way shorter than a lot of other people's of the past and stuff, and why, you know, it's not really my thing to sit down and read a bunch of books. But at the same time, what turns the modern world, right? What turns the modern world is speed and attention and your ability to get attention in a fast time frame, right? Like, that's how the world works, right? And so I kind of sat down about this and I thought, well, I think the best thing to do is not try to rewire myself to the way, you know, people were in the 19th century, but rather to say, okay, sure, I've been raised in this generation. It is what it is. Why don't I make the best of it? Why don't I make the most of it, right? Which is why I think part of what enables me to do what I do. Like, I put out content on a daily basis. I do the show like Monday through Friday. It's a lot of work, right? But it takes a lot of is like speed, repetition, you know, your ability to also very often, right, just sit down and talk about topics. You know what I'm saying? And be able to do them quickly. That's sort of a symptom of my doesn't really like read long, super long books and stuff type of brain, right? Because if I were that type of person, I'd probably be the guy who, sure, maybe like my monologuing and stuff would be like 10 times more detailed and it would be more sophisticated. But at the same time, that's not really what modern human beings buy up and like to consume. They want to consume short, to the point, right to it styles of content. And it's like, if you're going to survive appealing to the 21st century attention span, then you kind of have to operate right in the 21st century attention span. And so I don't know, that's sort of the way I see it. That's the way I would see it. I mean, that's just my thing. That's just my thing. If you read books, I mean, I'm not like shaming you or calling you a nerd. It's just, that's why everyone's like, you got to read this book, you got to read that book. And I'm like, do I have the time, frankly? You know, and am I going to get, it's all value analysis. Am I going to get as much value out of this as the time I'm putting in? And I, like I said, it's, if you have the time to read books, good for you. That's probably a good thing. But I just see it, like, I don't think that sitting down and reading a book and get the value I get out of that is enough to justify the time exchange. And frankly, like when you, like I said, when you have to make content and all this stuff every single day and then be a student and all that, it's just, I just don't find the time, you know? It is what it is, right? So anyways, let me see here. Again, questions or comments. Q&A season. And if you still got questions for Barack Obama, here we go. I read the Bible every night to settle my brain. Well, I do too, but that's, you know, I'll sit down and read a few chapters, you know. It's not like you whereas when you read a whole book, whereas you can do that for the Bible, right? That's kind of a normal personal thing where, you know, you sit down and you read a few chapters and then move on, right? But with normal books, it's like the expectation, you got to sit down and read the whole book, right? Reading an excerpt of the book, fine, you know, but it's really, for me, it's like I don't have the time to sit down and read entire books front to back. That's just where I am in life right now, you know? So anyways, let's see. Anything else you got in chat? Let me see if this camera starts working again. It's not very cooperative. Nope, it's still doing that. Maybe if I turn it off and back on. I want to put Barack Obama there. I feel like it'd be hilarious. But sadly, it just won't work. Very annoying. I mean, like I said, I had to buy a whole new camera anyway, but still. Okay, let's see. Is it gonna work yet? Wait. Whatever. Barack, I blame you. This is your fault, okay? This is your fault. Why have you came in and broken all my cameras? His like EMP wave from his reptilian skin, it's just there, okay? It breaks my technology. He literally is an EMP because he's a reptilian shape-shifting cyborg. And now look, he broke my camera. It is what it is. It is what it is. Vince, if you don't take time learning something and just watch a video or something, you will think you understand it, but you won't. And how annoying are those people? Well, Dirty Mike, I mean, I guess, but also it's like I said, the whole thing has to be a time value analysis, okay? When you listen to me speak, do you think I'm particularly an idiot? Do you think I'm like some, you know, unread, just like moron, right? Because I definitely don't think I'm like, just if I were to self-evaluate, do I by any means think I'm like the smartest person in the right-wing sphere? No. Are there people who clearly are like 10 times more articulate than me and stuff? Yes. But I think I like to think I present myself as at least being semi-articulate on certain topics, and like a lot of those topics I've read 0 books on, but I just understand them, right? I process information, especially that I hear very quickly, like easily enough. And, you know, I don't know. But then how much time do I have to sit down and do all that stuff, right? That's my thing. And I just find very often from reading books that people who write books, they just love to, I think they just like to hear themselves right or see themselves right. Because I'll read certain books, I'm like, I'll read a whole chapter, and I'll think to myself, you could have made this whole point in 3 to 4 sentences and given me the same value, right? That's what I find very often from books. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing. When I'm retired and off into sunset, will I probably read a bunch of books? Yes. But I literally don't have the time. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I don't have the time. I do not have the time to read books. Okay? It's literally like my day, almost every single weekday especially, is wake up, cut the clips, do the content, right? Post all that, record some shorts, go to school, which people forget I do. Go to school, right? Do my like 12 credit hours, like full-time college credit hours, come back, prep the show, do the show, you know, try to find an hour to work out and go to bed. Like, that's my day, you know? And it's like, okay, I could sit around just reading books and take a bunch out of it, right? But then ultimately, see, what I'm doing is doing, you know? It's like I sit down, I put out the content, I do the show. My big qualm with people who read books all the time is very often they're not doers, they're just thinkers. They have all these big ideas, but they don't apply them, and they, more importantly, they don't spread those ideas, especially in like the right-wing media sphere, right? What use is the guy who reads books all the time if I'm the one who's actually putting out the content and spreading the ideas? Whereas these people who read books, like they don't, very often don't turn around and actually do a whole lot, you know? And because my life right now is so action, I don't have the time to sit around and like read a book. I just don't, you know? It's kind of, it is the way it is, you know? AOC Foot Fanatic, very interesting username, okay? AOC Foot Fanatic for $5 says, thoughts on the distribution of satellite phones to senators, or the Fed buying millions and millions of radiation meds. Thank you for the $5, AOC Foot Fanatic. I've never heard of that. I've not heard about that at all, but yeah, I am very skeptical of these cellular waves. They probably are all destroying us, to be honest. I will say, I don't know if anyone else feels this, or maybe it's just in my head because I'm a conspiracy theorist, but whenever I have my phone on 5G, like I have a newer phone that takes 5G, I always get a headache. I don't know if that's just me, or maybe it's just in my head because I have like a, you know what I mean? It's like confirmation bias, but I just very often find, because I've only done it a few times. Most of the time I just keep my phone on LTE because I don't want 5G or whatever. But I do notice whenever my phone is on 5G and I'm using it for a few minutes, I get a headache. I don't know. Do you guys ever feel that, or is that just me? Maybe it's just a psychological thing. But yeah, it is true. I'm not sure about all these waves. You know, all these waves. I don't know how to escape them because we all use all this stuff and devices or whatever. But you know, yeah, it is probably is giving us a lot of cancer. Who honestly knows? Who has any ideas? So. The McCarthy stream didn't start yet or something? No, I talked about it. Let's see here. I'm a research engineer with a full-time job and finishing up grad school and have a special needs son, and I read books. Just saying. The books I read are mostly technical, though. Okay, so then you are getting something, because you're a research engineer. You're getting something out of it. I'm not against doing it to get something out of it. I'm just saying that honestly, can I be real, too? Most political books are freaking stupid, okay? Like, yeah, do they make good points very often from my experience? Yes. But it's also a matter of, A, I probably already understand this, and then this is what I find very often with political books. A, I already understand it. B, I could, if I kind of wanted to enhance an argument, I could listen to someone's 5-minute video and get just as much, right? And then, you know, C, it's just not, it's just, they're so long and they say so little. And frankly, you know, the idea that you need to read books to understand politics, I don't really buy it. Because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've never needed that, right? I kind of just look at what's going on and, you know, because what is a political book? Politics is not a science as much as people want to say political science. Literally, all a political book is someone sits down, looks around at the world, and has an opinion on it, and then writes a book about it. Okay? So how's that any different from me sitting down, looking at the world, having an opinion, and doing a show on it? The reality is it's not any different. It's not any different. And that's not to say I haven't heard a lot of good arguments made in political books, right? Pat Buchanan's books are a big reason I believe what I believe. But it's just to say that a lot of like the book reading in politics is a total waste of time. Like all books are, technical books fine, because it's like written by someone expert, whatever. All political books are is some doofus said, I want to talk about, share my opinions on a topic, and that's it. Which is no different from someone going on TV and sharing their opinions on topic, or someone going on a YouTube stream and sharing their opinions on that same topic. That's why I find in the political world, like, everyone's always like, book list. I'm like, yeah, read the Pat Buchanan books and, you know, Paul Gottfried and Sam Francis and stuff, fine. But it's just like, honestly, you don't need to get super duper into it, or frankly, arguably at all, right? But if you want maybe a few surface level books and that's it. But beyond that, literally, it's just in politics, most books are a bunch of people thinking they have ideas and writing them down, okay? Which you also can have ideas and write them down, and boom, you have a political book, right? Like they're not, there's no such thing as like a political scientist. There's no condition in which you've ascended to which you're an expert on an issue. You're just some guy who thinks they have ideas, which is the same as me, the same as the person watching the show, and that's it. That's all that political books are. Which is why, having read a handful of them, I just beyond that point, I'm like, I don't A, have the time, or B, think you get a ton of value out of them in terms of, in relation to what you really need out of them, right? Because it's not to say that like you don't learn smart or intelligent things from political books. I definitely have in my life. It's just a matter of, is it worth your time, right? Is it worth the amount of time it takes to read this versus the value exchange you get? And I've just very often found that's not the case, you know? You can basically write an article on what many books say and you know, more or less internalize the same ideas. That's my thing on political books, okay? That's my thing on political books. So, let's see here. Vince is Bangladeshi American, or Bangladeshi American, and he's Asian American. Do I also use he, him pronouns? My name's Zayed Ahmad. I like have that memorized because I've edited that video so many times. Zayed. Hi, I'm Zayed. I use he, him pronouns. I am Bangladeshi American and I am Asian American. And then there's me in the back just rolling my eyes. That's the Vice panel for people who are unfamiliar. See, everyone always talks about that one clip of, I don't know, committing crime or something is not telling people not to commit crime is racist or whatever. But there's a lot of underrated gold in that whole panel. In the introduction, when he introduces himself and he says, I use he, him pronouns, and then I'm in the back rolling my eyes, that's such an underrated moment. And I feel like most people did not even talk about that or notice that. So, you know, looks like he might be part Indian / Bangladeshi, to be honest. I'm not. I'm part white. That's where my mixedness comes in. Vince uses stable genius pronouns. True, those are my pronouns. Stable / genius. Indeed. Barack, what do you think of that? Barack, what do you think of Zayed Ahmad? He actually came to your White House. Did you know that? Did you know that? Here, have you guys ever seen that? Look it up. He went to the Barack White House. So you've met him too. What did you think? What did you think of him? Wow. So even you didn't like him. Whoa. You said he wouldn't stop talking about his pronouns all over your White House? You said he kept spazzing out and kept making like crazy facial expressions at normal things? Wow. So even Barack is not a fan of our boy. Even Barack. Very interesting. All right, let's see. All right, we'll end the stream at 9:20, guys. So I just wanted to do a test stream. Probably was not the best show I've done, but I wanted to do a test stream to, you know, get a feel for this, okay? Just make sure it on the most basic levels works, which it seems like it does. So that's a good start, okay? Because it took me about 3 years to figure out how to use technology correctly. And so the learning curve here has been slightly faster. Okay. But all right, 5 more minutes on the stream. Last call, super chats, questions, comments. It's all appreciated. God bless you guys. Thank you. Last call here. We'll end the stream here in 5 minutes, but let's see. Denise Young says, God bless you, brother, you and yours. Well, thank you, Denise. God bless you too. Daniel McQuaid says that was the longest criticism of reading books that I've ever watched. I'm not criticizing reading books, for the record. That's not what I'm doing. I get what you're saying, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm just explaining to you why I often find that it's not worth my time with the things I have going on in my life, and for that reason, you know, I think it's perfect. If you have the time to read books, then I'd say go for it. But at the same time, you know, keep in mind, what are you getting out of these books, and how are they applying to your life and ultimately action, right? Because that's the big thing. We can have very intelligent books. In the way I see it in politics, too, is like people can have very intelligent books on politics that they read, but if they're not converting it into a form of action, whether that's spreading the ideas or whatever it is, then, you know, what's the point of them? You know, that's the big thing. That's the big thing I very often find. Is it just me, though? Is it just me, or does the audio on this keep fluctuating? Because that's what I like. It's just very strange. Like, I talk at a certain point and then it'll move, and it's... Do you guys hear that? Have you guys heard that, or is that just me? Because I also can't tell. Okay, because I'm trying to work this out. But anyways, Vince's criticism of Back the Blue was the best criticism. It's so true. Yeah, and you know what? He's very optimistic to see, though, how many people agree. How many people agree with that? Because... yeah, I did get a few comments that are like, Vince, this is like, you know, yeah, you don't get it yet. You will get it. You will get it. One day, you know, the blue's going to come and screw you over too because you're a patriot, and same thing. But the overwhelming majority of the comments are like, I agree. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see people are waking up on this stuff, because I think we've all had similar experiences with police in this country, right? And I know people are going to say, well, but what about our small town sheriff? Okay, fine. Like, yeah, I'm not saying he's your enemy, but the reason I have to generalize the police is because where are most of the police? We got to look at where most of the American population resides. Most of our population resides in like cities and stuff, right? And urban police in most places in this country are not your friends at all, right? Because they'll do exactly what they did with Daniel Penny or Kyle Rittenhouse or whatever. Enable the mob, allow you to be attacked, do nothing about it, but then turn around and then arrest you for it. And like, it cannot be understated how mad that makes me. You know what I mean? To see police who are supposedly there to protect and serve, not protect and serve, but then the moment you say, okay, well, I have to take matters into my own hands, they go and arrest you for defending yourself, right? And this is not to mention the fact that, you know, they enforce gun control, they enforce all forms of tyranny, they were the ones shutting down churches in you know, during the COVID mandates. And before you say, Vince, that was just blue cities. No, you know where else that happened? Do we forget about this? Louisiana. I know they have a Democrat governor or whatever, but still, that was Louisiana. Do you remember this? Do you remember during COVID, the cops were shutting down churches in Louisiana? They were going around arresting people on beaches in the very early days, in freaking like Florida too, right? You know, so it's like, just the truth of the matter is that as an institution in the United States, it is not accurate to say we back the blue as conservatives, because the blue don't back us, you know? And just to still sit there and be so proud of this institution, wave the thin blue line, this and that, we love the police, while they, A, are not protecting you, B, actively treading on you and your rights and giving you a hard time if you defend yourself, and then C, working for the very politicians who you hate and hate you. That's just slave mentality, right? That is slave, sheepish mentality, right? It's like the worn down Wojak, where it's like, yes, honey. That's what it is. That's what it is. The police knock on your door. You're under arrest for, you know, not complying with our gun laws and then defending yourself or whatever. We're taking you to jail. We're going to abuse you in that jail too. AIEDC and the January 6ers. We're going to abuse you in that jail. But we love the police. Guys, I still like the police even though they have me handcuffed. Are you a slave? Like what is wrong with you? You know? So it is true. It is true. That's why I do not back the blue. What's your P.O. box, Vince? I do not have a P.O. box. I would set one up, but it's like, see, if I were a normal YouTuber, I'd set one up. But we know what's going to happen in politics, right? There's people that are going to try to mail me freaking, poison or whatever, right? Valid points on the blue. I'm sure there are well-intended ones, but yeah. But that's the thing too, though, right? Here's my thing. I know what people always bring up and say. Hey, they don't have a choice, right? Hey, listen. They're just following orders. They need to feed their families. Sure. But the analogy I would make is this. Okay. So let's say you're in war, right? You're at war with a foreign army. Does the average soldier, right? Does the average soldier you're fighting on the other side, do you think they really care to be there? Do you think they agree with all the politicians necessarily? Probably not, right? But still, it's a matter of who's shooting at you on the other side. Who's the enemy and who's your friend, right? Are you going to stand there? I'm not saying that we're at war with the police. I'm just making an analogy to be clear. Are you going to stand there on the battlefield and say, yeah, you guys are shooting at me, but it's really the politicians. You guys are just following orders. Again, sure, maybe it's nothing personal, but at the end of the day, who is the one actually shooting at you? It's the enemy soldier, right? Again, not comparing cops to enemy soldiers, but still to make a similar, analogous, example there, right? It's not enough to say they're just following orders. It's not enough. And how long is that going to go for? So when they're going around house to house, picking up every person and sending them to gulags, are you just going to say, well, they're just following orders? I bet you they don't secretly agree with it, but they need to feed their families. Okay, fine. But still, if all that they care about is their job and not morals, fine, that's understandable. But at the same time, if that's the case, then why do I have to say back the blue? Why am I going to have this flag that, we stand with police officers, we love the police officers? Let's make a million different country songs about how much we love law enforcement. Why are we obligated to do any of that if they, on a very basic level, are not going to try to discern morality when it comes to us and say, well, you know what? Screw these politicians. I'm not going to comply. Very rarely will you ever see a police officer do that. And if they do, good on them. You're a patriot. But, it's also going to happen. They get fired. And then what happens? Still, the police are still not on our side. So, yeah, the point is, and I know people just don't get this and they want to, no. Okay? I am not here to go around and pick on every innocent random cop out there. That's what I'm saying. I'm not some left-wing activist. But at the same time, yeah, I'm not exactly fond of the police in our country. What do you want me to say? And it's like, yeah, are the cops who handcuffed Daniel Penny directly supporting it? Maybe they disagree, but what are they doing? They're handcuffing Daniel Penny. So, I don't understand why this is so hard for people to comprehend. If they are agents of evil institutions and an evil system, then maybe they themselves are personally not evil, but, what does it really matter? They're enforcing evil. And so I'm not going to back that. I'm not going to support that. I'm not going to stand by that as a conservative, and I have no obligation to. So honestly, screw the police. I don't particularly care for them at all. And if I were to tell you the truth, I've really never had a good encounter with the police in my entire life. Not that they go around arresting, but it's just for instance, I grew up in LA, right? Growing up, let me just say this about the freaking police, right? Growing up, we got burglarized 2 times. They sent a detective. You know what the police did? Absolutely nothing. Okay? Family member in my family got in a hit and run. LAPD, never did anything. Never did anything about it. Never responded. On top of that, a family member of mine who now has his concealed carry permit, you know how long it took LAPD to approve that concealed carry permit? 2.5 years. They just sat on it and did absolutely nothing for 2.5 years, and was only under immense political pressure locally on this issue that they actually stood up and did anything. So why should I care for that police department at all? Why should I? But you know what? No, we love LAPD. We love our cops. Really? Really, you do? Why? For what? Do you love them for what? Because never once have I had police do anything that actually, like, when I needed them, you know where cops have been in my entire life? Absolutely nowhere to be found. But you know what they do on the flip side? Hey, if I were to say, okay, well, this is chaos, I'm going to carry a gun. No, you're under arrest because you're not allowed to carry that gun. Right? If I said, okay, to the people who broke into my house twice when I was a kid, I'm going to track you down personally and find you since the cops aren't doing anything. Oh, I'd be the one who gets arrested for being a vigilante. That is policing in the United States for the most part. Yeah, I understand there's some small town sheriffs that probably would do their jobs and they're good. Okay, fine. Whatever. I don't care. But I'm just pointing out, as a matter of fact, that most people in this country live in areas where the cops are actively, like, not on their side. So why would I back the blue? Why should I be? I love law enforcement. No, actually, I don't particularly care for them at all. You know? All they really do is cause problems for us. Let's be totally real. I'm not saying that I'm against the idea of having police. I 100% support it. But I want police who do their jobs, okay? And all that, the police in, like, most parts in this country, all it is, hey, you're driving like 85, I'm going to give you a speeding ticket and just be a annoying SOB and just be an absolute a-hole who's high on power, right? Let's be real. But then at the same time, hey, if someone were actually breaking into your house, what would they do? Probably take like 20 minutes to respond. Or if your kid was getting shot at in a school shooting, what would they do? They'd do like Uvalde or Parkland and just stand outside and let your kid get massacred. But back the blue. Screw those people. Screw them. Seriously. I'm not saying I hate, like, individual police officers, but still, as an institution, I cannot help but look at them with contempt. Because I saw what they did in 2020. I saw that they literally just let everything be burnt to the ground. And they just stood by and watched. They stood by and watched as people like us were beaten in the streets by violent communist mobs. But back the blue? They stood by and watched as the mob that was burning down Kenosha, Wisconsin, was doing all of that, chased down Kyle Rittenhouse and all that. But what did they do? Right? What did they do? They arrested Kyle Rittenhouse. And Kyle Rittenhouse was the one who, luckily he didn't, but almost got sent to jail for life. Daniel Penny, prime example. But, like, back the blue. Millhouse 321 says, okay, let's abolish the police and see what happens. Except that's not what I'm saying at all. How many times do I have to explain this? This is not hard to comprehend, guys. Okay? I'm not a libertarian. I'm not an anarchist. I am advocating for police in this country that actually do their jobs the way we want them to do. But that is not possible because the people in power and the regime in power are evil and not for us. Therefore, the police ultimately serve the regime and not us. How hard is that to understand? How many times do I have to explain the exact same thing? I don't think it's a particularly difficult concept to understand. Police officers serve the people in power. True. Correct. If the people in power were good, i.e. the type of people we would want in power, then I would want police officers to serve and uphold moral and just and righteous laws. But because the people in power are not good and not on our side, the police by proxy are serving immoral and unrighteous and unjust laws. This should not, therefore, right, because we are not the ones in power and because we are powerless, the police are not on our side, and I do not particularly care for or support the police as an institution as they currently exist, which is why I don't really quote unquote back the blue as a right-wing conservative. Again, this should not be a complicated concept to understand. I don't know why people always are just so like caught up on this. Oh, but you're going to say all cops? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, generally speaking, as an institution, my war is not with individual police officers. I'm just saying at the same time, I'm not going to go in and say, oh, thin blue line, because I'm not going to back the police as an institution, because for the most part, the police as an institution in the United States are like agents of the mob. It's anarcho-tyranny. All right, anyways, let's get caught up here on some of our super chats. Gnarl Antlers for $10 says, Till Valhalla, remember the cops tackled the father of the girl that was assaulted by a trans person and the Uvalde police? Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the $10, Gnarl Antler. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to point out. But some people just don't get it. They just don't understand it, And I'll be honest, like this last month, I've become more radicalized in my things about this because you know where it really started? The other night, you guys remember we did the George Floyd anniversary stream and we reacted to all of those old videos of those people burning down the country that we forgot. And yeah, like honestly, the past few days, it's really reignited that spark in me because I've never... It really did make me seriously angry to rewatch those videos of Kenosha and Minneapolis and all the people just running rampant and looting everywhere and the police doing nothing about it willingly. Like they knowingly were standing down and doing nothing about it. And, you know, it just reminded me like, and then the Daniel Penny thing and watching Daniel Penny get arrested, it just reminded me like, these people are not on our side. This institution is not on our side. You know, it's just not. So anyways, got another super chat here. Daniel McQuaid for $6.99 Canadian says, reading books is gay. VinceDao 2023. He definitely said this. Don't you dare fact check me like a liberal. I'm going to fact check you like a conservative. No, but real and true. Real and true. So... Liesel Igfried says Lolbert's 1% right for once. I mean, I guess kind of, but they're also not, because what the Lolbertarians want is just like no law enforcement or basically non-existent law enforcement. That's not what I want. I want strong law enforcement that does its job, right? In America, I would basically argue we have like decently strong law enforcement that actively does not do its job. You know, it's anarcho-tyranny. It's like stand by, let criminals do their thing, but if you stand up to the criminals, then you're the one who gets in trouble, right? Or don't you dare drive a cool car because we're just going to pull you over and raise money off of it for the county. But, you know, I'm a police officers. Okay. Let's see. Any last comments here? NYPD did turn their backs on Bill de Blasio. I mean, sure, that was kind of based, but then at the same time, still, if you're in New York City, here's my point. If you were in New York City, can you count on NYPD to keep you safe? No. Can you count on NYPD to arrest you if you defended yourself? Still, yes. So, yeah, am I glad that, you know, sometimes, you know, good police officers make stands, you know, they stand up and kind of, hey, we're not for this. Yeah, I appreciate it. I guess I do. But it still ultimately is a matter of, you know, so... The police in America are at least better than the police in other Western countries. I mean, yeah, I guess I agree with that, but also let's be real. You know, we're America. We're supposed to be the best. Okay, just saying we're better than the UK, which we are. Is that enough? You know, so all right. Well, I think we're good to go for tonight, guys. Okay, thanks to everyone who tuned in. I think we're going to wrap it up here if there are no more super chats. I hope people understand. I hope people understand my police take, okay? It is incredibly reasonable. In fact, let me make sure. Let me make sure everyone gets this, okay? Agreed. Cops only give driving tickets now. Do you notice, too, with all the stuff about how, oh, we got to pull back the police because of Black Lives Matter. Do you notice that's the one thing they still never stop doing? You know, yeah, honestly, if they stopped doing traffic stops and like just got off the highway and just stopped annoying people, maybe I'd have a little bit more, you know. But Bobby D says a few months back, we heard like 6 shots go off from what sounded like the street in front of her house. Called the cops, asked for a check-in, never saw them come. I've had very similar experiences with the police. 100%, Bobby. Thank you. See, we secretly... If we all secretly broke our like conditioning about thin blue line, all this stuff, we'd all agree. I don't think what I'm saying is particularly that controversial. I think it violates a certain conservative filter that a lot of us have, and so we have a knee-jerk reaction to it. When you really sit down and ask this question logically, A, are the cops on my side? B, would the cops arrest me if I defended myself? C, would the cops come to protect me? And has that historically been my experience when I felt like I'm in danger in my life? When you understand the answers to all 3 of those questions, then you realize, actually, you know what? Vince is making a good point here. Vince is making a good point. Why do we have this just slavish worship of the police when they don't even stand for us? It's really not that unreasonable of a take. But like I said, because it violates a conditioning a lot of us have as conservatives, initially me throwing out the idea to you is going to be harshly perceived by some. But when you really think about this kind of in a logical way, you will very quickly understand, yeah, you know, what did the cops do in 2020? What have the cops done for me? What would happen if I defended myself? And then what would the cops do? Would the cops say good job, or would the cops say you're under arrest? Oh, you know, it all kind of makes sense then. Yeah, that's why Vince feels the way he does. That's why Vince doesn't really like the whole back the blue sentiment, because actually the blue are not very nice to people like us. Oh, wow. It all makes sense. But like I said, because it violates that basic conditioning we have, because people are like, so you support Black Lives Matter? No, but because, you know, I understand, and I get, to an extent, I get it too, because we've had to debate with these BLM idiots for so many years that we have this like very knee-jerk reaction. I understand it, but I would ask that you sort of actually logically consider what I'm saying, and then you will honestly, like I said, if you in good faith genuinely ask yourself those three questions, you would realize exactly why I feel the way I feel. It's not that hard. But all right. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to leave a like on the stream before you go. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight to our little test stream here from the podcast studio. We will be improving it. Okay, it's not done. I still feel like there's too much echo in here, which is strange. But yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in. We'll see you Tuesday night. Okay, Tuesday night, return to the normal show in our normal setup, you know, and then our little podcast studio here. It will come soon enough. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. Everyone have a very good night. Alpha moves only. God bless. See you guys later. See you guys on Tuesday, and peace. Okay, hold on. Do we have to do this again? All right, let's. Okay, listen. AOC Foot Fanatic says a lot of them are good. Let me say this one more time, because I addressed this. Do people not listen? I already addressed this. It does not matter if they personally don't agree, if they personally are conservatives. It does not matter if they still are enforcing the laws that are evil and bad. What does it matter? Oh, but I'm sending you to jail, but just know I personally don't agree with sending you to jail. Who cares, right? Unlike the analogy I brought up earlier, it is like saying if you're at war with an enemy army, oh, but it's the politicians' fault, not the soldiers. Okay, fine, but who's shooting at you? That's my point number one. And then on the other flip side, someone said do a ride-along and you'd understand. I am not denying that cops have a hard and dangerous job, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm not being a BLM guy. Oh, you're the stupid guy. My point, okay, is that the system they enforce, okay, is not our friend, right? Do you understand that? That's what I'm trying to get at, okay? So me saying, hey, try, you know, responding to crime in the hood. It's not easy. I never said it was easy. My whole thing is I wish they would actually do that a lot, like do that instead of freaking be harassing people like us all the time. But they don't. You know? And I agree with you, they're fighting under the wrong generals in the wrong direction. Okay, fine. But for how much longer in this country are we going to make excuses for that? You know? Because I don't hear this excuse made in Mao Zedong's China, right? Let's just bring an example for that conservatives will understand. Okay, is it all Mao's fault? Or is it all the people who did the genocide's fault? Or something in between, right? I don't know, but the point is, can you really make that big of a distinction? Yes, Mao's the guy who ultimately ordered and all that stuff. But it's like, are you going to have a favorable opinion of his Red Guard just because, well, they were just following orders? Sure, we understand they might have a little bit less accountability than Mao himself, but do we exactly remember them in history as being the good guys just because they were just trying to feed their families and follow orders? No. It doesn't make sense. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, anyways, have a good night, guys. See you guys later.